Hello, this is Ashutosh Varshney, and I'm here to talk about my latest column for The Print. It's on Bihar, uh, focusing on Bihar's elections and what the key issues from my perspective are. But before I get to the election issues, let me talk briefly, as the column does, about Bihar's past in contemporary discussions. Often some of the quite glorious aspects of Bihar's past get ignored, and understandably so, because contemporary discussions are about contemporary issues. But it's worth reminding ourselves that some of the most interesting features of ancient India are related to Bihar. For example, Buddhism was born in Bihar when Buddha received enlightenment in Bodh Gaya in 5th century BC. And it's from India, it's from Bihar, to be more precise, that Buddhism spread to China, Japan, Korea, Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, becoming a world religion. Two other aspects are briefly worth recording before we talk about the elections. One is about the ancient republics called the Sanghas in Bihar. In traditional Western discourse, it's been argued that the ancient Greek city of Athens was the birthplace of democracy, and newer work shows, also emerging from the West as well as India, this newer work shows that the republics of ancient India based in Bihar, the Sanghas, were also coterminous with the Greek city-state of Athens, and the republic there, or the republic in Mesopotamia. And another thing worth noting is the university, the most ancient university of the world, Nalanda, was in Bihar 500 years before Oxford was born, and a little more than 500 years before the first European university was born in the Italian city of Bologna. Now, today we talk about the low per capita income of Bihar, among the lowest in India. But poor republics or poor kingdoms do not produce world-famous universities. So in ancient times, Bihar had quite a lot of resources and perhaps quite rich. At any rate, with that background, let's now concentrate on these elections. And two aspects of these elections, from my perspective, stand out. First of all, it is not often noted that in the Hindi-speaking North India, in the Hindi-speaking North, Bihar is the only state where the BJP has not been able to come to power on its own. In Uttar Pradesh, in Madhya Pradesh, in Rajasthan, in Haryana, the other parts of, and Chhattisgarh, in other parts of North India, Hindi-speaking North India, BJP's Hindu nationalism eventually overwhelmed caste politics, especially lower caste politics. But in Bihar, lower caste politics is so deeply ingrained that Hindu nationalism has thus far only been able to forge a partnership with it instead of defeating it. Of course, the BJP would eventually like to be the sole ruling party of Bihar, but that may not happen anytime soon, and certainly not after these elections. One should note that BJP is contesting only 101 cities out of 243. So on its own, it cannot be a majority party unless it converts the winning members of other parties in which it's an alliance. That's so. Why has the BJP not been able to do what it did in UP, for example, where it came to power entirely on its own some 7, 8 years ago? Well, let us think about the nature of lower caste politics, or what might be called Mandal politics. Um, Historically, Mandal style politics seeking an empowerment of the OBCs, of the lower castes, um, was born in South India, and to be more precise, in the old presidency of Madras presidency of British India, as early as the 19 teens with the birth of the Justice Party and the Dravidian movement. But in North India, such politics took another 5 or 6 decades, and its birthplace was Bihar. In particular, we need to recall the role of Karpuri Thakur, who led Mandal politics in Bihar. And in 1978, as chief minister, 12 years before Mandal politics churned UP and Delhi and other North Indian states. In 1978 itself, Chief Minister Karpuri Thakur adopted an affirmative action program for the OBCs over and above the reservation for SCs and STs, and it was called the 26% reservation model for government jobs. It was mostly um, about uplifting the OBCs through job quotas. Um, Karpuri Thakur has been historically, or after 1947, a major figure in Bihar politics. He was a mentor of Lalu Prasad Yadav, as well as the mentor of Nitish Kumar, who are paradoxically now the arch competitors for power in Bihar, but their roots are similar. Um, Karpuri Thakur's politics, in other words, did not last only till his tenure as chief minister, but under the rule of Lalu Prasad first and then the rule of Nitish Kumar, that is a period covering 3.5 decades, uh, Mandal style politics got institutionalized, deeply institutionalized, more so than in UP and other parts of North India, Hindi speaking North India. That is why, while the BJP may have broken the hold of Mandal politics in UP at the state level, it has not been able to do so in Bihar. Indeed, the Modi government's posthumous Bharat Ratna for Karpuri Thakur, given in January 2024, was an attempt to develop a partnership with Mandal politics. It was aimed partly at cementing an alliance with Nitish Kumar and partly to show that the BJP, which has historically had the image of being an upper caste party, which is certainly not true anymore, or certainly not as true anymore. It was also an attempt to show that BJP cared for the OBCs. That posthumous award of Bharat Ratna for Karpuri Thakur last year. How much progress in these elections will the BJP make towards achieving a UP-style outcome in Bihar, aimed at a full majority in the state assembly. The results will be watched very closely for this. Of course, it cannot capture a majority with just 101 seats that it's contesting, but it will be worth watching what exactly it does and how much progress it makes towards that goal, if it does make progress. The second vital aspect from a contemporary perspective is the question of a special intensive revision of election polls, SIR. Bihar is the first state where the Election Commission has attempted to cleanse, quote unquote, cleanse the electoral rolls. And certainly it's very hard, perhaps impossible to disagree with the claim made by the Election Commission and made by the Modi regime in Delhi that only the citizens should have the right to vote in a democracy and not the non-citizens. That's an absolutely correct argument. The contentious issue is not that. The contentious issue is the highly problematic implementation of a principle which is otherwise quite defensible. It's the implementation. How do you implement that principle? Essentially, as we examine what's been happening over the last 3-4 months, SIR has become a project of disenfranchisement, a project of disenfranchisement which seeks to severely abridge the voting rights of those communities that are likely to vote against the current rulers. The Supreme Court's orders have partially addressed the problem, but large numbers of voters who are citizens remain excluded. And that's an implementation problem. The EC, the Election Commission, wishes now to extend the idea of SIR to many other states after Bihar. Now, these developments directly correspond to the fast burgeoning literature on democratic backsliding, a concept that has been very widely used, democratic backsliding worldwide, democratic erosion or democratic backsliding worldwide. Typically, democratic backsliding begins with the executive of the day, elected executive of the day, seeking to curtail the power and autonomy of the so-called independent institutions, constitutionally established as independent institutions, the courts, the election commissions, the intelligence agencies, the tax authorities, the central banks, the media, the universities. In a democracy, as opposed to, let's say, communism or one-party states, these agencies are not supposed to be partisan institutions. Their job is not to enable the unchecked spread of executive power. Rather, in their own institutionally governed, institutionally appropriate, institutionally specific, institutionally correct ways, their responsibility is to constrain or watch over executive overreach. They are, to use another phrase, are neutral referees, are not partisan institutions. So that's how democratic backsliding typically begins. That's how it began in India. But we also know that after this initial institutional push, backsliding normally concentrates on elections finally. By enacting rules and laws about citizenship, about voting rights. Backsliding that way, by enacting rules and laws about citizenship and voting rights, seeks to tilt the electoral field in favor of the existing rulers. India, according to political science and observers of democracy now all over the world, is going through this second phase of backsliding from institutions, from independent institutions to election laws and rules and voting, that transition. But the research that is available in political science also points to how backsliding can be reversed. In a widely noted, heavily researched, empirically researched book, Resisting Backsliding: Opposition Strategies Against the Erosion of Democracy, that's the title of the book, by political scientist Laura Gamboa. That book, that research shows that a threefold strategy for reversing backsliding works best. And that is based on examples such as what happened in Poland and later on what happened in Brazil, where backsliding was reversed. And the three elements of this strategy are nonviolent protest, one, litigation through courts, even if courts are no longer fully independent, but whatever spaces are available should be used, that's two, and electioneering, even if electoral field is being tilted, whatever spaces are available, use those spaces to mount a struggle. And if you do that, as opposed to some other methods, and certainly violent methods will not work and typically don't work and can be easily crushed. Through this kind of strategy, the chances of restoring democratic vitality or reversing democratic backsliding are greater than they would otherwise be. So Bihar's elections, from this perspective also, are vital now. The question is, will they deepen democratic backsliding in India, or will they check the downward style successfully? Um, with these remarks, and I end this discussion of Bihar elections before the elections have taken place. And I'm sure after the elections, I will write a column once again and will be with you to discuss the implication of election results in Bihar around November 15th or soon thereafter.